hope you enjoy this very short interview with Armando where we talk about his new beautiful book, gorgeous photos, and it's called Remembering the Lamb. Here's my interview with Armando Gallo. All right, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I am your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I have my good friend back, Armando Gallo. How are you doing, Armando?
Hello, Malcolm. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm doing well, considering the circumstances.
Like I was saying earlier, you definitely have 9 lives. I don't know how you keep going, but you have a strong spirit.
Yeah, but at least I left my blood on stage. It's very much rock and roll, 50 years of pictures around the world, around so many stages. It never happened, and then, but I found this bolt. I tripped over this bolt coming out of the stage, this metal stick. Shouldn't have been there anyway. So, my God, anyway, I have a photograph with all the blood being picked up by various towels, Anyway.
You're used to a lot of drama on stage, but this time it was you.
Exactly. Go with good news, yes.
Yes. Today, I want to help you promote your book, so I'm going to say a quick intro for everybody. Longtime photographer and friend of Peter Gabriel and Genesis, Armando Gallo has many of his wonderful images in the recent 50th anniversary box set of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. To complement those images, he has now compiled a wider selection of his photography from that period in a new book called Remembering the Lamb. And Armando himself once said, "When you leaf through the pages of this book, while you play the amazing new 2025 mixes, you will feel like being in a front row seat, only a few feet away from Rail, the young outsider so well performed by Peter Gabriel in the most imaginary tale of a man coming of age." So in this book, there's approximately 100 photos, 18 pages of text, and a 1974 interview with Peter Gabriel after you first listen to the album. Now, so everybody knows, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is my personal all-time favorite album. The tour that these photos and recordings were taken from was 1974 to 1975, so I was much too young to see it live. And with almost no cinematic footage of the tour available, your new book is like a time travel portal into what those shows were really like. So you invited me to a photo exhibit last year of your Lamb Lies Down on Broadway photos, and it was a complete surprise to me and everyone else with the unveiling of this book. Tell me about how you went from contributing photos for the 50th anniversary box set of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway to creating your own photo book.
Thanks for the introduction, which was great, and perfect. And I saw the pictures and I went back in time myself, and there was Peter and Tony that got back together for the first time after 50 years to do something creative, which was going back to the original recordings and do a remix, and them telling me, my God, we realized we had a great band, we were a great band, but there were kids of 23, 24,
Yeah.
So I went back in time myself, and I went to look. At the time, I was a rock and roll journalist, and I was writing from London, United States, and I found 2 great articles. One was an interview with Peter Gabriel running through the album track by track.
Yeah.
And the other one was a reportage from Los Angeles, from California. You see, the show started in United States, so nobody in Europe has seen the show. We're talking about 1974, 75, communication was very slow, there were they were quite, not as crazy as today. So, he needed to fly out there, photograph the show, and describe it, and getting ready for the European promotions, and that's what I did, and I did a meticulous review of the show, which is I translated for the Italian from the Italian magazine, and adding something that I remembered, and it was because I used to write a reportage like a letter to a friend that couldn't be there with me,
Right.
So I was never a critic, If I didn't like a concert, I wouldn't spend time to tell people what the band did wrong,
I love that. That's great.
And then I realized that the picture that they chose for the box set, they were kind of small, but they deserve probably to be blown up, so I had this idea to do an exhibit, to celebrate the release of the box set, and so at that point I was, okay, let's do also a catalog for the exhibit, and the catalog of 24 pages, became 50 pages and 60 pages.
Right.
In the end, is 100 pages, and being like a catalog, of course, imagine a book that has a photograph every page, so you can see it really well. And there's a photograph that is a 2-page spread. And I didn't do much of those, maybe 4 or 5, because there's the spine of the book inside, So the book is like a documentary, a visual documentary of the concert, the way it happened.
Right.
That's why I thought that listening to the live recording from the shrine, which is in the box set, you could really close your eyes, and then open them up on every page, and close your eyes, and then turn the page and listen to the music, and then turn the page, and you get transported into as you well said, you get transported into that incredible time of art rock, and this was the pinnacle of Genesis' first chapter of their incredible career, and it was, to me, was The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway was like an incredible vision of Peter Gabriel backed by 4 amazing friends, And why did he leave Genesis? Whatever, there's so many reasons, and maybe you can feel it, as you go through the book, especially when you read the interview that I did with Peter. I was called up to see if I could translate The Lamb. Actually, I didn't know anything about The Lamb. I just said, Tony Smith, the manager of the band, said, would you like to translate the new album for the Italian release, like you did for Selling England by the Pound? I said, wow. Great, yes. And I went to see them. And I had this big mallop bunch of pages, I realized that the lyrics were a lot, the story was a lot. And I thought, what did I let myself into, So I went to see Peter Gabriel at his whole new home down in Bath. See, Jill was pregnant, so they moved in the country wanted to raise a family in the country. And so I got there, I found them, I found this new person, there was this man and with his little baby, and a father, and I did the translation at the end of the entire weekend that I was there. He was helping me to do the translations for Italy. And in fact, some passages are a little bit difficult. So I would translate the stuff, the phrase literally, and then I put an asterisk, and at the bottom of the page there is an explanation that Peter was giving me. But this is only on the Italian version of the album, okay? So that album is a collector's item now.
Wow.
And but at that point, because Peter felt very respectful and very grateful to the Italian fans because they kind of discovered them before England, So I said, let's do before leaving the house, I said, can we do an interview track by track, And a long story here to tell you that when I when I read that interview back 50 years later, I realized
Yeah.
that he crossed over in the cage. He didn't talk about in the cage. Of course, at the time, I didn't care. I never noticed that. I noticed it only last year when I did a translation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it doesn't say anything about in the cage. And then it was clear to me because it starts with I got sunshine in my stomach as I put my baby to sleep. This was a song written for his first little baby, Anna.
Yeah.
And in the cage, what's the cage? What's the cage? Probably the cage was the entire rock and roll universe and the band. So he needed to get out of there to be able to tell his own vision. And probably realized he couldn't tell anything. He couldn't ask for another favor to the other guys in the band to follow his vision,
Right.
because he had so much respect for them as musicians, and that's what happened, and of course being young kids of 24, 25 and being very British, they never, they never talked about it very much,
Yeah.
There's a phrase in the Genesis book that I did in 1978. There's a trying to figure out why Anthony Phillips left the band, and Anthony said, "Being British, we never talked to each other so much, being British,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but a long story here to tell you that In the Cage probably was a subliminal tale for Peter. When I did the interview in October 74, right?
Right.
Probably he probably didn't realize that we didn't talk about In the Cage. There were 21 21 tracks,
Yeah.
so there you go. He already knew that probably would have left the band, but he would have left the band only because he didn't want to be crowding in the band.
Right.
Anyway, in fact, in the book, I get this. I try to show this in a graphic way. There's one page on the left. There's Rael looking like a punk, and on the right there's a portrait of Tony Banks looking at him, and so that's to me is the struggle that was happening between the two kids that knew each other since they were 13.
Yeah.
They went through a school, a very tough school, and in England, the Charterhouse, and there wasn't a they weren't rivals. They were good friends. Tony Banks to me is 80% of Genesis is Tony Banks.
Right.
The stamp of his arrangement, his keyboard, and the chords that were picked up on every song. And so I felt bad that I didn't have many pictures of Tony Banks during that period, because I went to shoot these 3 concerts also to give to do an article for my magazine Child 2001, and I also to give some photographs to Charisma to promote the show for the European tour.
Of course.
So, but I had the leftovers. But the leftovers were maybe 370 slides of sound, so
yes, I've seen those at your house.
Yeah. So the book is a gift to my career. It's a gift of sharing this to the fans that like you, that they think that they feel that the Lamb done on Broadway is an incredible piece of art. It's a masterpiece of prog rock, and the way it came about was done very quickly, all the month of August we got together, and then it got printed. And in fact, you at the exhibition, I told you to wait. You wanted me to because the book was coming from San Diego. The printer was coming over with a few books. So the book that got in your hands and you first saw it. I saw the book for the first time the same moment that you did.
Yeah.
So
It was a surprise.
and
I absolutely flipped out. I couldn't believe it.
yeah. Come on, this is my question. Okay, you have the box set. You have the little booklet in the box set.
Yeah.
And you think you have. My God, this is fantastic. And then my book arrives. We open the boxes. And you get probably one of the first people that bought the book, and you see it. Tell me your feelings.
Yeah, it's a complete companion piece to the box set. I was very happy with how they did the box set, but you're right. There weren't a lot of your photos and they were smaller than I expected. So it's kind of like a teaser that leads into your book. So I highly recommend what you said. Listen to the album and look at these photos. And, I'm a big fan of Genesis and Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins and all the guys in the band. And I've grown up with your books, but many of these photos I've never seen. I love the one with Phil Collins with the overalls on and Peter playing the oboe. There's some really wonderful outtakes, and the colors are illuminating in it. It really makes you feel like you're there and up close.
Great. Good.
I'm curious,
And,
what was the response from the band? Did you hear back from anybody like Steve Hackett?
I as you can imagine, I sent it immediately to Peter.
Yeah.
I sent 2 copies to it by FedEx. Cost me a fortune, but there you go.
Yeah.
and the one I autographed it I signed it to him.
Yeah.
So for all the incredible moments that he gifted me during my career, and the other one just assigned on One Love Armando Gallo, so he could give it to one of his son or one of his daughters, I don't know, to anybody. So so I asked him, what do you think about the book? And he said, well, that's a great souvenir for my kids.
See what Dad was like when he's in his 20s, right?
Yeah.
The Peter Jackson document. Oh, sorry.
Steve totally loved it. He came to my house in last November before he played the Orpheum here, and he was totally knocked out. In fact, he did a couple of video clips for me to promote the book. And then during the concert, he played 2 nights at the Orpheum. And the first night, he told people that I was in the audience, okay? And the place erupted, this was so beautiful. And then I went backstage during the encore to be able to beat the crowd, So as he was doing the second encore, he saw me hanging by the wings of backstage. He came over and he dragged me on stage. And it was fantastic feeling because he goes to me, he said, now you know why we played these concerts, And I looked up that there were these 2,000 people.
Wow.
With their hands up in the air, they were screaming. It was fantastic. That's what the energy that you get as a performer at the end of the show. It's really so rewarding. And then he goes, now we bow. So he made me bow with all the other guys, with the entire band, and there's some pictures of that in my Facebook and Instagram, yeah.
Wow.
And,
Steve Hackett, amazing.
So, yeah, and Steve is a great promoter of the book, And I'm going to England in July. Probably I will try to meet up with Tony and Mike,
So I know that you just did Cruise to the Edge and you were able to promote the book there. Other than going to England, are there any other events coming up where you're going to be promoting this?
Yeah, there's a tour of an orchestra in Italy in June of 5 or 6 concerts. There's a 70-piece orchestra playing Genesis music with a rock band.
Ooh.
Nick DiVirgilio is on drums, and they invited me over to for this, at least for the 2 days of Milan and Rome. Now I hope I'm okay. I hope I'm totally. I'm okay to travel. And so we'll see. So that is with a big question mark if I can get there.
I'm sure. I'm sure you'll
But
do it. You're a resilient guy, and
and
you
and
you haven't used up your 9 lives yet.
and then there's another incredible cruise, Prague cruise on the River Rhine in Europe. That River Rhine that goes from Basel in Switzerland all the way to Amsterdam, and then back from Amsterdam to Basel. And this is a Prague rock cruise.
Ooh.
It's a luxury cruise with 149 rooms, and great entertainment. And I will be part. I will be part of entertainment together with Rick Wakeman and Steve Hackett.
Amazing.
And lots of other people, old members of Focus, and there's Paul Carrack as well, and Rick Wakeman's son with one of his mates. That's happening between July 10th to July 25th. And they invited me to go to that. And I hope to be there with my wife and have a wonderful vacation as I talk about my good old days of in London during the prog rock revolutions.
What is the best way for people to purchase your book? Should they go to your website?
Yes. We did a book so fast, we didn't have time to find a publisher,
Right.
So, and I thought, let's do 1,000 books, and sell them online. And I'm sure there's in fact, 1,000 books were sold so far. So we are left maybe with 1,500, 2,000 books, and I would like to thank you for doing this interview because, if you can put the book is only available through me, okay?
Okay.
And through the website, armandogallo.com. And you can find the book, how to pay for the book, which is PayPal, credit cards.
Actually, Armando, isn't it armandogallo.net?
Yeah, it is. But, if you go armandogallo.com, it takes you to armandogallo.net. So go straight to armandogallo.net. You're right.
So people can follow you on Facebook and Instagram, but to buy the book, they can go to armandogallo.net or armandogallo.com. Does that sound right?
Correct, yes. Every book is autographed, and if you want to dedicate the book to someone, to yourself or to a friend, when you order the book, you have to write that, and there's a way to do so. And there's a way to contact me. It's very easy because you go contact@armandogallo.com.
All right, before we go, I have a quote from Peter Gabriel. I'd like to read it to you, and then you tell me what you think. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Watch out for music. It should come with a health warning. It can be dangerous. It can make you feel so alive, so connected to the people around you, and connected to what you really are inside. And it can make you think that the world should and could be a much better place. And just occasionally, it can make you very, very happy.
Correct. That's from the the speech from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Armando Gallo. I love all your books. I hope you heal quickly, and let's get together soon for some espresso.
Yeah, thank you. And let's not forget the gift of sharing what you have, what we all have. So I'm sharing my catalog here, and I'm sharing a way to have photographs in an art print, so you can put it on your wall.
If somebody buys your book and they love a photo, like I love that one of Phil Collins at his drum set during the Lamb, can you purchase bigger prints, and can they have them framed?
Yes. You can go as far as 20 by says 30 by 40, you know, and it's going to be done with the archival ink, you know, and archival paper. It will be done as art prints, you know. But there's another thing, I tell you, for people that can't afford to buy an art print, you know, they can buy another book. You know, I'll tell you why, because this happened already. Someone said, I broke the book apart because, see, every page is one picture.
Right.
So I broke your book apart, and I have he sent me a picture of his wall, covered in pictures of the lamb, and he did it in sequence. So he has like a storyline, you know.
Yeah.
And so he told me that by ordering a second copy of the book, because the first copy he put it on his walls.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is, you know. And I thought, what a clever idea, you know. And so yeah, you can do that, because once you see the book, and you, as you know, one page is quite big to put it in a frame as well if you want to, you know.
Okay, so for everybody that loves Genesis and all the members in the band, I highly recommend you buy some photographs and Armando's books to enrich your experience listening to one of the greatest bands that ever existed. You agree?
Cool, I agree, man.
All right, Armando.
Okay,
Armando, I hope you feel better soon.
I will. I'm healing. I'm healing properly, and I tell you, I sleep a lot, which is fantastic, because the only way to heal is really sleep a lot, you know, and be able to sleep, which is fantastic. I slept 9 hours straight last night. You know,
I'm jealous.
So I know, isn't it? Especially, you know, especially you get a little bit older, you have to wake up every 3 hours to go for a pee, you know.
I'm well aware. Well aware.
There you go.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Take care. Good to talk to you. All right.
One love, man.
Thanks, Armando.
Hello, my name is Jefferson De Leon, and I am a scientist in the biotech sector and a comedy musician, and I am a proud sponsor of the Creativity is the Cure podcast, because creativity is central to who I am and what I do. Check out my creations on my website, jeffersondeleone.com. That is JEFFERSONDELEONE.com.